So Matt Horn, off to you first. One of the questions that came into your presentation was, have we really seen a sort of validation of what's going on between the results of the modeling and what we've seen in the real world, right? Have you been able to sort of say, hey, this is what we predicted, and then unfortunately there was an incident, and this is what happened in real life, and how do those two kind of come together?
Yeah, that's a great question. Can you hear me all right?
I can hear you great.
All right. Excellent. Yeah. So actually, all of the RPS models that I presented here, the oil map land and the SciMap model, have actually been validated against real world releases. Specifically, in the I guess the most notorious release was the BP release into the Gulf of Mexico, the Deepwater Horizon oil spill, and we actually worked on that case for about 6 years with the Department of Justice and EPA, and have validated not only the trajectory, but also the fate processes and the potential effects that were predicted from them. So SciMap has not only been validated in the offshore environment with Deepwater Horizon, but also in more coastal releases like the North Cape spill in Rhode Island, as well as inland releases in the regions of Washington and Delaware and some of those other rivers like the Columbia River. Oil map land has also been validated. That's a two-dimensional overland trajectory and fate, as well as in water. It is validated for the on-land releases. It's a little bit less detailed. It's a oil spill response planning software, so the answers are a little bit higher level. But yes, both of those tools have been validated against real-world releases.
Very cool. Very cool. Awesome. Well, I've got all my questions up and running here now. We had a great. We won't get them. Won't get to all of them, I'm sure, but there's some really good ones in here. So, Sean, the next question's off to you. You guys had talked about those weather alerts around critical facilities. Have you looked or thought about extending it out to the entire field crew, like other locations?
Yeah, so right now it's kind of on a user by user basis. We let the ES&H manager at each facility decide if they want to utilize our alerts. But again, kind of as we said in the presentation, the skeleton's already there. So if somewhere else wants to be included on those alerts, all we have to go do is go add in that new geofence, and then they're set up and ready to go.
Cool, awesome.
Sean, do you guys have AVL data that you could theoretically use?
We don't, but yes, theoretically we could ingest that and then use it and call it good.
Cool. I know, living here in North Texas for the first time in my life, I've seen all kinds of crazy weather events that I never saw up in the Boston area come rolling through here. I imagine that this has been pretty invaluable for you over the last couple of months. We seem to have a pretty hectic spring weather events rolling through at least North Texas and up through your area. So, have you seen the system come to life in the last couple of months?
Oh, for sure, yeah. And I've actually thought about putting it on my own house so I can get my own. Yeah, so and I'll say it's one of those things that's been growing pretty organically for us because there's so much value in it in the people who are informed early versus the people in operations who aren't. That they start to talk to each other, and especially during the springtime, that's when the emails start rolling back in of, hey, I heard, place X has alerting. Can we get that same thing? And then what's great about it with GeoVent using the DTN services is, we can set it up in less than a day, and then their mind's kind of blown that like, all right, you're good to go.
Yeah. That's really cool. So the next one, I'll move over to you, Phil. Next one is on your dashboards. There's some interest here, and you mentioned the proliferation of those dashboards. How are you building those? Are you letting users build their own dashboards? Is that supported by a central team? Like, what's the kind of cadence for building when you guys get a request in for a new map or a new dashboard? How are you kind of going through that process?
On the dashboards, really two groups. Create those, the GIS group, and then we also have an IT GIS group as well. What we had done though was we started holding some meetings with company personnel and just showcasing some of the new items in the GIS environment, and just started soliciting for their opinions on it and what else could be done. so then the user started reaching back out and saying, well, I think we have these reports that we give out, we hand out every week, that really if we just had this in a dashboard, the users could then just go to the dashboard and we would no longer have to create the report. So we've been having a lot of activity around things of that nature. So we just created one for like a gas control service request where we have outages and things like that, and that was a report that group would maintain and send out. So we've now done an integration with the Maximo system to pull it over and show those outages on a schedule. So once it started with users seeing things, is like I said in my presentation, that really did get the light bulbs going, and users started to think about it, to become engaged with it. A lot of things around the PHMSA mega rule have been created by the GIS group. They came out of our pipeline safety group. We're just now though getting ready to start trying how to manage that, because things are really taking off, and how to manage the apps, and how to display those inside of Portal to keep them separated from other applications.
Cool. Awesome. Well, you guys are doing a great job over there. I'm always impressed when I see what you guys have done, and every time I come back, there's more stuff going on and more apps built. So yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing where you guys are heading next. Next set of questions.
Like I said, I was just going to say, all a person has to do is see something. Just like when you guys got with us right before COVID hit, we hadn't built a dashboard. We saw one dashboard, and then it took off.
Yeah, that was we saw quite a bit of that as well. Even beyond the pipeline industry, when I was talking to my friends back home, and my dad said, "Hey, that map that comes up on the news every night? Yeah, that's an Esri dashboard. That's a map. That's what I do." He's like, "Oh, that's what you. Now I finally know what you do. It's all these years I paid for college, and now I figured it out." So, I was like, "Yeah, Dad, that's what I do." So, that's cool. So. Derek, the next question is really for you guys on the mobile side. So, couple of related questions here, really kind of digging into that imagery kind of question. What kind of imagery were you guys, were the users really interested in, and have you guys actually been enabled them to do offline imagery yet, or they have to be connected at this point to see the images when they're in Explorer?
To take the last question first, yes, we have got the offline imagery working, both from the phone and the PC, and it's a big hit. So that's working very well. I think a big part of the imagery and a lot of the work we did was trying to get the imagery manageable, getting it into chunks. And Danielle can probably even talk better to that, because those guys did all the work on it. So if you want to chime in.
Sure. So what we did was we took the imagery and we put it into TPKs that were small enough to be able to be on a device, but large enough to be able to cover the user's general area of responsibility. And so, yeah, we manage it, and it works out pretty well.
Yeah, just updating it was a big hit, of course, because the imagery that was there previously was so old. But then the next thing was really being able to break it down so that it was relevant imagery for whomever in their location.
Yeah, I've seen that in the past too. It's inevitably the pipeline crosses the corner of every image, right?
Yes,
it never goes
right.
to the middle of one. It's instead of you need 5 images to make one piece of the pipeline, right? So,
but we figured out, a person would need so many different TPKs, right? Because of that, that's exactly right.
Yep.
The pipeline crosses states and boundaries and counties and so forth.
Yeah, the other thing to remember about those imagery layers as well, for folks that are considering offline imagery, is that there's different levels in that stack, right? So, you might not need to go all the way down to the lowest level for the field guys, and I know a lot of companies have decided, hey, let's do 1,000 feet each side of the pipeline, and let's go down to the level where they can see building footprints, right? Because that's kind of like you don't need to go any further down than that offline. If they want to see more detail, then they can go back online. So there's sort of some different interesting ways to tackle that offline, online sort of imagery problem. So, Edward, you're back. Can I hear you?
Yep.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Cool, I can hear you. So I'll throw one over the fence to you. So the question is really about the creation of the photos. Like, how do we get them off your airplane and into our system, right? So, kind of maybe I guess the question is really around: is there a lot of post processing that needs to be happening, or is this a pretty seamless way to get those images out into the platform?
Yeah, it's a pretty seamless process. It really depends on location, geography, etc. Uh, the best option is first of all, if there's an encroachment, we get that image right down to the field crews in real time from the aircraft, just like we do on any kind of visual patrol. But the full imagery of the entire line, we have clients that have fiber in the hangars, and as soon as we land, it starts the upload process, and then it goes right into however you're storing it, either in Azure or AWS, and then the catalog can be built with the Esri system. We have other clients that we FedEx it to a location that they want, and then they ingest it there, so they're getting it the next day. It really depends, how you wanna set that up. But I do think with technology and different options out there, the ability to even transmit a lot of this from the air or upon landing over cellular or in other ways, we can prioritize what gets transmitted and how fast. But certainly upon landing, the full catalog can be uploaded right away.
Yeah. And so the process on the Esri end, once those images are taken, there's just simply a geoprocessing tool in ArcGIS Pro. You point it to the set of images, and it will read all the metadata directly from those images and create that oriented imagery catalog that goes into either ArcGIS Align or the portal. And that can actually point to the images that are sitting up in that EC2 instance up in the cloud. So you don't even have to download all the images. You can point to them in a cloud storage and then have that process go and then make those images available to the organization. So it's a pretty seamless process once you figure out the math and all the parameters. That's what Edward and I have been working on for the last couple of months to figure out how this plane is tilting and twisting as it flies down the right of way and get all that stuff lined up. So there was a couple of questions on my section, and I'll sort of rattle off a couple of these. And one of the questions is actually really interesting. It says, because as I showed the demo of the utility network and APR, the question was, is it a requirement now to implement both together? And the answer is no, actually. You can either implement linear referencing on its own, or you can implement it in combination with the connected network. So I didn't want to give the impression that's the only way to do it the way I was showing, but I certainly feel the combination of the two brings more value than either of them on their own. Linear referencing has its own sort of way to manage data along long linear transmission segments that's still very, very much needed to do all the things we need to do around integrity and large data manipulation. And the utility network brings in the stuff we've been missing for years about how things are connected together. And the other one that we had was around sort of alignment sheets and asking directly, is Esri going to offer up an alignment sheet generator or a strip map generator out of ArcGIS Pro? And this is really a kind of an important part for us as well. We very much value our partner community, and when we embarked on this journey, we wanted to do two things. We wanted to have a template database that you could freely download and start using, and tools to edit the data in that database. And that's it, right? We're not going to build an alignment sheet generator or a risk tool or an HCA calculator. Those all come from the pipeline partner community, and that community is very strong. And really that's where those subject matter experts live, right? An HCA calculator or a class calculator is built on Esri technology, but it's the know-how of how to read the regulations and make those tools function as they should to be in compliance is really the magic in the soup that the pipeline partners bring to the table. So I want to just kind of clean up that. So yeah, that pretty much gives one question to everybody. We've got some other ones out there, but I know we're about 10 minutes over, so we've got a good solid 20 minutes of Q&A in there. And I really appreciate all you guys, your hard effort. I know doing these things not live and having to do all the hard work up front is a little different than just throwing the presentation on your laptop and jotting down to Houston. But I really appreciate all you guys' great stories. I think they all sort of came together in a nice way to really kind of summarize how we're bringing value to the pipeline industry using the ArcGIS platform. And I hope to see all you guys in person next year in Houston. I think that's everybody's looking forward to that, and I appreciate all your hard work. So with that, I'll say thank you to you guys, and we'll catch you on the other side. Thanks, everybody.